Some would say we don't buy a lot. Some would say we just buy some. But there is a lot of hydroelectricity that comes from Canada for America. Leo and I were talking. We've warned about EMP for years. Kind of ironic if the power goes out and it's not EMP, it's just Canada. A lot going on. We also want to talk to Leo get his thoughts on Kiev over at the Worldview Report today, worldviewreport.com. Kiev launches 337 drones at Russia in war's largest attack yet. There's video footage of that. Let's see. Another headline. Moscow under attack from largest drone strike yet. On day peace talks begin. Well, how convenient. Because again, it seems as though Europe wants to make sure they drag us into war. We have enemies, foreign and domestic, trying to bring down America. And the enemies, domestic, seem to be interested in getting America into a World War III and getting nuclear war going to bring down America. They're trying so hard, these Marxist and globalist inside our own government and country, to bring down America. It's kind of, if you notice, and again, I'm not a defender of Putin. I'd like to get Leo's thoughts on this. I'm not a defender of Putin. I'm not a spokesperson for Putin. I'm not here to beat the drum for Putin. I'm just here to present facts. That's it. Putin is for his country. He doesn't want the LGBTQ agenda. He doesn't want all that going on. He's pushing for the Orthodox Church and his government. Yep, I know people say the KGB or what is left of the former KGB has greatly influenced the priesthood over there. I know the talking points, and I know some of it may be true, some of it may not be. But I do know this. He's trying to preserve his country and culture. That doesn't go well with the globalist. Everybody's got to surrender their sovereignty, their culture, their way of life, their values, for globalist values. And you got two guys, certainly on the world scene. Viktor Orban would be another. Three. Certainly three leaders on the world stage that I can think of off the top of my head that are under a lot of attack by the mainstream corporate media globally. Viktor Orban, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin. Whether you agree or disagree with all of them, or any of them, one thing is clear. These people, these guys are pushing for their own country to be great. They're pushing for their own country to be front and center on the minds of the elected officials in their respective nations. That's not how you have the new world order. You've got to do away with sovereignty, your currency, your tradition, your values, and go to global values. So whether you bring down Putin and Russia, you bring down Viktor Orban, you bring down Donald Trump, you notice the common enemy here and who gets attacked? People that aren't going along with the globalist ideals. I want to talk to Leo Hohmann about that a little bit. Let's see here. Did you see? I also want to talk to Leo about the fact that there seems to be credible video footage. That's not it though, guys. There seems to be credible video footage today of Russia protecting Christians in Syria. We'll get to that with Leo Hohmann as well. Okay, today being March 11th. Yep. So in the meantime, let's go to Aaron. Aaron Lavarco is our reporter on the ground in Israel. He texted me this morning, said there's developing news that we need to get to. So let's get an update from Aaron. I think, again, yesterday, after we went off the air, the IDF apparently made at least 9 strikes inside Syria. Remember the Alawite Muslims. These are guys that are not real Muslims. They don't want to be involved in jihad. They don't want to fully follow the prophet. So let's make clear. Why is ISIS, why are Muslims with ISIS killing Alawite Muslims? Because they don't want to follow the Quran and the prophet in its totality and be involved in jihad. As Sharam said last night, these aren't real Muslims. This would be like his daddy who called himself a Muslim, or his mother who called herself a Muslim, but they didn't practice Islam. His dad ate pork. His dad didn't want to live under Sharia. He got his family out of Iran before the fall of the Shah. So the Alawite Muslims are begging the Jews to help them. Wait a minute, I thought Israel was an apartheid state involved in genocide of anyone that disagreed with them, particularly the Muslims. But no, here are the Alawites begging Jewish Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, help us, we will have flowers for you. And supposedly last night, yesterday evening, American time, I got reports of 9 IDF airstrikes in Syria. So let's talk to Aaron about the latest coming out of there, including the Kurds. What's going on with that? Joining me now is Aaron Lavarco. Aaron, welcome back. What's the latest, my friend?
Hi, Brandon. Good to be with you. Yes, another day of our Air Force flying around the skies, hearing engine jets flying all day. There's a sense of there's going to be action. I texted you yesterday saying that our Chief of Staff, our new top general who took over from Khazil Halevi, he said, and I quote, 2025 is going to be a year of war. And that's coming from our top general who's just hit the ground running. That's the kind, the first messages you give, they are going to be important messages. So for him to come out straight away and say that, that's saying a lot. So today we heard a lot of jets flying. We've been doing some attacking in Syria in some of the southern areas. Now, what you were referring to before, I reported to you last night, was that firstly, the Kurds have now basically sided with HTS, the new Syrian regime. That's not good. That's not good for the locals in Syria. That's not good for Israel. That's not good for America because, as I mentioned, the Kurds have thousands of ISIS terrorists in their prisons. They're going to be released. And then the other big news that happened today was that the Druze. Now, the Druze people, they are situated in the southern part of Syria, near our border. We have a number of Druze in our country. We have about 80 to 100,000 Druze people. The Druze are an offshoot of Islam. They're very peaceful, law-abiding citizens. They stick to themselves. Some of those Druze are top officers in our army. So they're very loyal to Israel. Now, the ones living in Syria, they basically have said, we want Israel to annex our places in southern Syria. And that's what we've been deliberating. But today, there was reports and pictures of HTS, the new Syrian regime under Jolani, hoisting Syrian flags over the governor's house in at least one Druze community. And that, by the looks of it, that means either they are forced to side or they have made a decision. Rather than get slaughtered like the Alawites are getting slaughtered, they're going to choose to side with Jolani. How that's going to affect Israel and the Druze living here, time will tell. But it's like every 5 minutes, something major is happening, Brannon, and it's hard to keep up. But that is the latest news here. And of course, the ongoing negotiations with Hamas and their leaders, that's at a standstill. Nothing is happening. The clock is ticking, Brannon. If they don't release our prisoners, our top general has said, we will start the war again. In the meantime, we've stopped sending electricity. We've stopped sending water. Now, they have a small amount of electricity and water. They have their own generators. But we're putting pressure on them. And so this is a time of waiting, but it doesn't look like Hamas are budging, and they're going to pay a big price if they don't compromise and release some of more of our hostages. We have up to 58, at least 26, I believe, are still alive. So they've got our nation on hold again. But in the meantime, we are strategically planning. I mentioned the other day, 50,000 of our soldiers are ready to go back into the Gaza Strip.
All right. Will you keep us posted? If any news breaks today, will you let us know?
I sure will, Brandon. Definitely.
Aaron Lavarco, lighttothenationsministry.com, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Remember, everything's on track for Aaron to be with us in the States on Tuesday evening, April 15th. Tuesday evening, April 15th, myself, Dr. Andy Woods, and Aaron Lavarco in Milwaukee, actually in Waukesha, just outside of Milwaukee at the Waukesha Expo Center, for our Worldview Radio Understanding the Times rally. It's free, but you do have to have a ticket. Please register each individual individually. Each individual must be registered individually so that we can count each seat when you register them. And again, it's free, but you do need to be registered. Worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. Caleb, is Caleb in there, Logan? Ask Caleb how many of these free business cards we've sent out. How many of these you think now? Okay, over 7,000? Yeah. Okay, wow. All right. There you go. Over 7,000 thus far sent out. The free business cards, the packet of 20, and you can get them at worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com will send them free of charge and pass them out to family and friends, and let's get more people introduced to what we're doing here on this broadcast, right? Okay, we come back. We're going to get to Leo Holman. We're going to talk about Kiev launching 337 drones at Russia. This is, I guess, the largest attack yet. And yet peace talks are supposed to be underway, my friends. And Russia. Is Russia protecting Christians in Syria? There's some video footage going around today. And then let's get to the new Prime Minister of Canada talking about shutting off the power on 1.5 million Americans over tariffs. We'll be right back. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. TV is worldviewtube.com. Hey, don't forget about Crosstalk coming up at the top of the hour with Jim Schneider on all of these VCY stations and more. Over 100 terrestrial stations nationwide is Crosstalk carried on. And if you'd like to listen to that, stay on the terrestrial station you're on now. And if you're not on one of theirs, even if you're listening to us, you're welcome to go over there, vcy.org, VCY stands for Victor. V is in victory. I think it stands for Victorious Christian Youth. Am I right, Dalton? VCY originally? But it's vcy.org, vcy.org to listen to Crosstalk at 2 o'clock Central. Joining me now is Leo Holman, our senior producer of the Worldview Report, our nightly newscast. Takes a team of 7 of us, 15 man-hours a day, put that 30-minute newscast together. It takes a lot, folks, to grab all this together. TV, as you know, is very labor-intensive and it's very expensive, which is why a lot of people don't do it. And many people do it, but they don't do it at a professional level. But we've always felt like the message is so important. It's important to do it right. So we're thankful for guys like Voice of Christian Youth. That's what Voice of Christian Youth. Victorious Christian Youth sound pretty good too, right though? But it's Voice of Christian Youth is what it stood for. V. So V as in voice, vcy.org, right? But anyway, one way we're able to be so professional is because we hired professionals like Leo Holman, who has a long history in news and writing. He joins us now. Leo, welcome back to the broadcast. As we're appreciative of you and to have you on board today.
Good to be back with you, Brandon. Hope you're having a good day.
I'm having a busy day. It's a busy, some days are kind of light, and then other days there's a lot of news going on.
Have you noticed there's been fewer of those light days since Donald Trump got in office?
That's exactly right. That's right. That's what we talk about around here. Is it a busy news day? Is it a light news day? There's not been very many ones where it's light. Today is one of the ones where it's busy. Everything from Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East, and now a tariff war, and Canada talking about turning the lights out on Americans. Let me go to the audio, the video. I mean, you and I were laughing earlier. It's not really funny, but we've talked so much about EMP and the power grid going down with EMP. Could it be that 1.5 million Americans find themselves in the dark due to Canada just flipping the switch, turning it off?
Right. Who needs expensive EMP attacks when you've got Canada as your northern neighbor, right, Brandon?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, here's the new Carney, the new prime minister up there in Canada. Here we go.
Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump. I'd rather be working together. I want to sell the U.S. more energy, more electricity, more critical minerals. I want to make Canada and the United States the richest, most successful, safest, most secure two countries on the planet. But as Premier, my number one job is to protect the people of Ontario and in hand protect the people of Canada. I will do whatever it takes. I will fight like I've never fought before to protect Ontario.
Okay, well, there you go. Turning out the power.
Is that, Brandon, is that Carney or is that the Premier of Ontario?
I think that's the Premier. Thank you. I think that's the Premier.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, man, he's gained weight if that's Carney.
Yeah, that's the Premier. I got it wrong. That's the Premier.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't imagine he would say something like that without first discussing it and getting some sort of tacit,
right?
Okay, from Carney. Exactly. Yeah.
So 1.5 million Americans could be in the dark because of this tariff war. Now, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I wish President Trump would maybe explain a little bit more the reasoning behind some of this. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think he's letting it play out in the media too much. I feel like there should be some private negotiations going on at the highest level between Canadian and U.S. governments. I don't like seeing something like this play out in the media. I always feel like perhaps we're being played when I see things like this, Brandon, that maybe there's more to the story that we don't know. But right now, it just seems like a war of words going back and forth. You've got Donald Trump continuing these talking points about making Canada the 51st state. And if they conceded to that, there would be no trade problems, no drug trafficking problems, no border issues. But I just don't see that as a realistic scenario. And I'm sure President Trump, I mean, I can't believe he would either, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's something going on in regards to a threat to the country by Islamist and Marxist and drug cartels in both Canada and Mexico. And he's trying behind the scenes to put pressure on these guys to give permission for our government to do something or pressuring these governments to. We know that he's at war with the drug cartels. That we know. And I think it's my opinion that Mexico is a narco state. I mean, I really don't think that woman serves as the head of the Mexican government without the permission of the cartels. I mean, when you look at all the power they have, the money they have, anyone that opposes them, a lot of these politicians are dead. I mean, not too long ago, we had one newly elected who ended up literally with his head chopped off and put on top of his white SUV. Remember that? So I think the government of Mexico is just absolutely thoroughly corrupt from top to bottom. But I don't know what's going up in Canada. But I do know that in my documentary, I think it was either Siege or Sabotage, I played, a few years ago now, a video from an expert saying that we have to be very concerned that Canada will become like a aircraft carrier by which Islamists launch attacks on America. So I would love to know what's some of the intel that President Trump's playing off of, and is there some national security issue that's manifested itself into this tariff war to get some kind of reaction or cooperation from Canada?
Yeah, if that's the case, you would think at some point, Brandon, President Trump would have to go public with whatever intelligence is leading him to believe that it's worth completely tearing up our relationship with Canada. Now, I know they are not a reliable partner on many issues, but just like the Mexican government, you said, is not really in charge. The faces that we see atop the Mexican government are not really the ones with all the power. I think the same thing could be said for the top officials in charge of the liberal government in Canada. Klaus Schwab has openly bragged about installing the majority of the cabinet ministers in the liberal government of Canada. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, which we know is one of the leading globalist voices in the world today and powers for really tearing down and scrapping this entire nation-state system that was built on the ashes of World War II. They want to tear it up and start over and go with something they call a Great Reset and a Fourth Industrial Revolution, which would empower technocrats on a global level to supersede nation-states. I think really that's where we're heading. If these globalists are successful, Donald Trump is more than likely seen as a catastrophic barrier to that sort of a system. I don't think Donald Trump is completely anti-globalist like he likes us to believe, but I do think he wants the United States to be at the head of the table of whatever system takes shape, and thereby may be the rub. That may be the point of confrontation, Brandon, where you've got the Canadian government in line with these World Economic Forum, UN-type globalists, and Donald Trump, heading up another faction which wants to sort of maintain the United States as the biggest, baddest guy on the block when it comes to the international order.
Well, look at this headline, Daily Mail yesterday. I mean, this is kind of a liberal publication.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Daily Mail, yeah, certain things, they're liberal.
Yeah. Giselle, was that how you say her name? Or Giselle, is that how you say her name?
I don't know. I just say Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine, I guess that's it. Ghislaine Maxwell. She was Epstein's girl. Ghislaine Maxwell, photos that haunt Canada's next Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Apparently he was out there on the island, and there he is pictured in the Daily Mail. Why would this publication, you think, be doing this? This UK publication be doing this?
Well, I mean, that UK publication, while liberal by our standards on certain issues, like I said, they're also conservative on others, and they tend to uphold the conservative globalist line. Okay, they would be more affiliated with the Fox News type of reporting, I guess you could say, Rupert Murdoch type of entity. And they're very much pro-war. They've been 100% on board with this propaganda campaign to demonize Russia and throw everything that the West has into that war against Russia, using Ukraine as the proxy. And anyone who questions that, it would not find a home there at the Daily Mail. They have a long, long history of doing the bidding of the worst aspects of the British government over the decades, leading all the way back to pre-World War I days, when they were one of the leading voices for propagandizing against Germany in the lead up to World War I, to make them look like the aggressor of Europe, and that they needed to be taken down or they were going to attack Britain. And all of the exact same type of reporting we're seeing today, only just insert Russia and take out Germany, and that's the Daily Mail. So, but on other aspects, they can come across like a typical neocon publication. They can have their conservative reporting out there that makes them look very much on the side of the Tories, the Republicans, but not anti-globalist in any way, shape, or form, Brandon.
Let's go to Russia. We've got footage today of Russia supposedly protecting. This footage here I'm showing, it looks like hundreds and hundreds. What we're told are Syrians and Christian Syrians being protected and surrounded by Russian military trucks in Syria. What do you make of this? Have you been able to confirm this report?
Yeah, that seems to be an accurate report. That particular video, I believe, was shot by RT, which is a Russian news agency, showing, I can't pronounce the name of the base, but it's on the northwestern coast of Syria, where Russia still has this military base, completely fortified with Russian military equipment, and up to 8,000 Syrian Christians and Alawites have fled there to be protected.
8,000. Wow.
And more are on the way.
Oh, the word's gotten out. Okay, well, I don't know if you probably didn't hear my commentary when I started today. I said, isn't it interesting that you see particularly three that I can think of off the top of my head, leaders on the world stage being attacked? Viktor Orban of Hungary, right? Donald Trump, United States, and Vladimir Putin, Russia. What do all three have in common? And I say they're nationalist in that they want their own country, their own culture, their own language, their own history, their own laws, their own currency. Let's talk about that with Leo when we come back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, we have breaking news. The BBC is reporting that Ukraine says it is ready to accept a 30-day ceasefire, as U.S. says, ball now in Russia's court. Leo, you want to respond to this real quick?
Yeah, that's not a complete shock. I knew they were moving in that direction when we saw the apology letter sent to President Trump. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It arrived at the White House, which is what the White House was seeking in order to move forward with the negotiations on ending this bloody turf war, this bloody border war between Russia and Ukraine that's going on for 3 years now and killed more than 1 million people. So perhaps we will see something in the days ahead. But as it said, ball now in Russia's court. And I don't think Russia's going to be completely silent. I don't think they're quite ready, given what happened last night, Brandon, where Ukraine launched the biggest, most massive drone attack on residential areas in Moscow of the 3-year war so far. It killed 3 people and injured at least a dozen others.
Yeah. And again, we have video footage of it hitting what looks like apartment buildings, a bunch of cars, drones, using drones to go after. So again, interesting. And this, of course, is while Europeans are continuing to say that Europe has to fight and build up to fight Russia on their own. In fact, I think I have a clip here from the leader of Poland. I think he's come out and said something here. Let me see where that is. Here we go. The Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, says Europe must be strong enough to deal with Russia on its own.
500 milionów Europejczyków.
All right, we're not going to be able to understand that. It's got subtitles, which is no good for radio. But here we go. I mean, these people have lost their ever-living minds, have they not?
Yes, they have, Brandon. And
yes, they have, Brandon.
You know, it's been going on just too long now, and you can tell what they're after. They're trying to start World War III, but they're also reticent. They're double-minded. They want World War III, but they don't really want to go into World War III without knowing that they have the full backing of the U.S. military. And so this is what makes it so dangerous for us, because we've got these hothead lunatics in Europe who are pushing this thing, poking the bear and provoking Russia, but they're trying to drag the United States in there with them.
Mm-hmm. What do you make, as I was saying before the break, I could just take 3 guys alone: Viktor Orban, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. All right, whether you agree with any of them or not, one thing you can say is they're interested in, to some degree, nationalism for their individual nations, their own country, their own culture, their own language, their own borders. They don't want the LGBTQ agenda, the destruction of freedom of speech. They're not going in lockstep with the globalist. And I think you've got a country where they keep trying to have an election and they keep canceling the guy because he is a nationalist and won't let him carry out. Romania. I thought that's what it was. They won't let him come on board. So you ever think that really what the goal here is the destruction of America and the destruction of Russia? And if we can get America into a world war with Russia, so we have a superpower, these 2 guys can obliterate each other. Let's let our enemies destroy each other. Let's get Russia and U.S. fighting, and the globalists sit on the sideline and say, we hate Russia because we hate Putin. We hate America for what they stand for and Donald Trump. So let's get these 2 groups to fighting with each other and destroy each other. You think that's what they're trying to do?
I think you make a very valid point there, Brandon. Absolutely. You look at the 2 strongest nation states. Well, I mean, let's start at the beginning, and I alluded to it earlier. The World Economic Forum, the United Nations, George Soros, and that whole clan, they're trying to drive they're trying to drive a stake into the heart of the nation-state system. They're literally warring against nation-states. And so what better way, if that is your goal and your mission in life, what better way to do that than to pit the world's 2 strongest nation-states against each other, United States and Russia, which also just happened to, I think this is interesting, Brandon, which also seem to have the 2 strongest Christian communities still alive and well in them, the United States and Russia. Now, you mentioned Hungary, and let's also not forget there is one other leader and one other country I can think of out of hand along the lines of a Hungary, a second-tier type country, certainly not a world power like approaching anything like a world power like the U.S. or Russia, but you've also got Slovakia. Remember the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Mr. Robert Fico, they tried to assassinate him last year because he was not a globalist. He was standing up for his country in a nationalistic way, wanting to preserve Slovakia's sovereignty, just like Viktor Orban in Hungary, Vladimir Putin in Russia, and Donald Trump in the United States of America.
Let's open up the phone lines. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. 347-9829. By the way, on the Worldview Report tonight, Leo, Elon Musk, his company is coming under attack, literally physically under attack, terrorist attacks. His X was up and down yesterday. Sounds like it was coming out of Ukraine, which tells me that's probably the CIA with our 10 CIA military bases over there. Likely the CIA, the deep state, trying to bring down Elon. And now his buildings are being lit on fire in cars and charging stations around the United States. They're trying to destroy this guy.
Oh, absolutely. And it was announced today that Elon Musk has lost $29 billion since Donald Trump took office, and he took up the leadership at the Doge. So, yeah, he's feeling it financially for sure. But $29 billion to him would be like pocket change to us. He's still listed as the world's richest man in spite of losing. Can you imagine losing $29 billion and still being the world's richest man?
Of course, most of it's on paper and stock price and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It's not like cash drained out of the bank account. And he could make it back up pretty quick. We'll see. But I guess a Tesla is going to be delivered to the White House today for President Trump.
Interesting. Yeah, these, I don't personally see what people saw in Tesla. I guess it was just the fad for the wealthy, but that was his niche market. And so these are the types who also tend to trend liberal, right? You know, you're wealthy, highly educated, live in big cities or just outside of them.
Quote, highly educated.
Right.
Highly brainwashed.
Yeah.
Highly brainwashed at their institutions of higher leaning, right? As Rush Limbaugh would say.
Correct. Yeah, they tend to graduate from prestigious institutions that were long ago captured by the left.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, what else do we have in the news? There's always so much going on.
Well, you had that Russian member of parliament who came out this morning and suggested, and he's not just any member of parliament. Let me see if I can pronounce his name. He is a former military general in the Russian army, and he came out today and said that he's encouraging Putin to launch Oreshnik hypersonic missiles at Ukraine.
Wow.
in response to that drone attack last night. So, yeah, this is getting serious, Brandon. This is getting very serious. People, myself included, we're starting to feel better about the potential for this war to spread or erupt into World War III when Donald Trump took office. But unless we hear a breakthrough soon, I'm going to start again losing sleep at night, wondering if this could erupt into World War III.
I want to go to a story. I don't even know if you've heard about it yet, Leo. I found it and put it up at worldviewreport.com today. The New York Post headline, drugs taken by millions in U.S. can cause deviant sexual behavior, including pedophilia.
What?
But patients aren't warned by doctors.
Holy cow.
A class drug commonly used to treat movement disorders like Parkinson's disease and restless leg syndrome is pushing people into risky sexual behavior. Patients taking dopamine agnostics say the drugs have triggered uncontrollable impulses, including flashing, sex addiction, and even pedophilia, leaving them struggling with feelings of shame and confusion. Reports reviewed by the BBC suggest drug maker GSK has known about the risk of so-called deviant sexual behavior since 2003. Yet patients claim their doctors continue to fail to warn them about these potential devastating side effects. The key brain chemical, this dopamine, it mimics dopamine, a key brain chemical that controls movement and is activated by pleasure. However, these drugs can overstimulate feelings of pleasure while dulling the brain's ability to recognize the consequences of our actions. This can lead to impulse disorders, with studies showing 13 to 24% of Parkinson's patients on this develop them. You know, again, I'm going to go back to what we've said before, Leo. Pharmacia, pharmacia drugs, pharmaceuticals tied to witchcraft, demonic behavior, and the manipulation of people. Isn't it interesting they just happen to be having a drug here that's causing this, and yet we have the perverts that I talk about in my book, Grave Influence, like Aldous Huxley, Kinsey, Alfred Kinsey, who said that children should be sexually active by age 6. Okay.
I've heard them say 5 years old and up, Brandon, and a lot of them get their so-called research. It's junk science from the Kinsey Institute.
That's right. That's right. Who was involved in hiring so-called researchers who were involved in the systematic molestation of children. Okay. That were a few months old, all the way up to teenagers. So again, I'm warning about this article at the New York Post and the pharmaceutical companies. And if this report is accurate, the patients aren't being told, who are suffering with Parkinson's, that this drug may cause this side effect. I'm going to go again where Aldous Huxley.
What did it say? Parkinson's and restless leg
syndrome.
Yeah.
It's just
unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't trust these drug companies. Do you guys?
Not at all.
Them. I don't trust them at all. All right, 1-800-347-9829. Let's go to Carrie, line 1. Carrie, thanks for calling in today, Carrie, line 1.
Hey, Brandon, and I just had a comment about why you think maybe Trump is being a little bit secretive on what's going on with Canada, and I think it has to do with 3 things, and the number one culprit maybe is the Chinese. We're talking about, the second largest trading partner is that Canada has is China. They own a ton of agricultural land up in China, and they use that to actually send the products back to China. And then the military training that they've been doing in China that you guys reported.
Yep.
Just wanted your comments on that.
Well, Carrie, you're so smart.
10,000 troops training for winter warfare. Absolutely.
Chinese troops in Canada.
Yeah.
And then you add, Carrie, the fact that China is like a massive trading partner with Mexico. Okay. Now, Leo, did you notice the other night in his joint session of Congress how much President Trump spent talking about China? Not a lot about the Gaza, but he spent quite a bit of time talking about China. And I'll come back. I'll show you some reports. There seems to be concern that China will make a move against something like Taiwan, again, to entice America into a war. So we talked about the election. Before the election, they're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at Donald Trump. Maybe this is it. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at www.foundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Uh, 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Look at this headline. China raises military budget as Trump nominee warns of catastrophic war. Okay? China will raise defense spending by 7.2% for a third consecutive year, the country said Wednesday, as it continues a military buildup that a Trump Pentagon nominee has warned is geared toward war with the United States. Now, of course, China is in trouble financially, and if they have their people turn against them, or even people in the Chinese Communist Party turn against Xi Jinping, nothing, of course, seems to rally a people around you than like war. So again, I don't know where this is all going, but Kerry brings up a very good point. So if China is dominating Canada and China's dominating Mexico and China wants to go to war with America at some point, maybe again, President Trump is trying to get these two countries to feel pressure points to deal with them and the conflict with China and the infiltration of China in both Canada and Mexico. Leo?
Kerry makes a very interesting point there. Absolutely, that maybe some of us need to flesh out a little bit more. But, you know, wouldn't that be ironic if China made a play for Taiwan during the presidency of Donald Trump when we were all certain that it would happen at America's weakest point under President Biden? So, yeah, that would be quite a story of the century if China made a military, surrounded the island and made cut it off and tried to militarily incorporate it into the mainland during the presidency of Donald Trump. That would be an audacious move by the Chinese Communist Party.
What if China did that with Taiwan, while North Korea goes after South Korea, while Iran goes after Israel? And then you end up with all of the world on fire, right?
Yeah.
So you got an economic crisis now, you got a military crisis, and they, again, you and I warned that they would try to throw everything at Donald Trump to disrupt his domestic agenda and even his global agenda of being such a staunch anti-globalist, you know, to one degree or another. This is not off the table.
No, I mean, we knew 2025 was going to be a chaotic year. The watchword I gave for this year, if I had to sum it up in one word, was chaos.
Well, remember maybe to hear what Aaron just said. One of their military guys has been warning for some time that 2025 for Israel will be the year of war in Israel.
And if that is just one of the war flare-ups around the globe, as you pointed out, Brandon, if that was just one of many, with the Koreas, you know, igniting, Taiwan and China,
the Philippines,
you've got the Philippines, you've got, of course, Russia and Ukraine continuing to escalate. You've got Europe talking about raising a big, huge army over the next couple of years, you know, and doubling their spending on military. You know, just the lead up to some of this, even if it were not to actually unfold until later this year.
Oh, did Leo freeze on us? While we get Leo back, let's run over to Benny in Missouri, line 4. Benny, thanks for calling in from Missouri today, Benny.
Yes, I'm here. Be real careful, guys. Don't give them any ideas. They seem to come up with enough on their own. But anyway, my comment was the EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Why do they need or why is Canada, you know, why have the EMP if you got Canada in the lineup? Okay, reword EMP, energy manipulation potential.
So yeah, instead of electronic EMP, electromagnetic pulse, it's energy manipulation potential. Okay, there you go.
That's a farmer from Cedar County.
Thank you. Well, we need more farmer common sense in America, don't we? Let's not forget the average person when this country was founded was a farmer, and they gave us a great document and a great republic. So yeah, we need more farmer common sense, right? Let's go to Priscilla, line 2. Priscilla, thanks for calling in, Priscilla.
Yeah. Hi, Brandon. I was wondering, I had heard that NATO has had a heavy hand in the Ukraine-Russia border crisis and has been aggravating that and trying to gain control over that or manipulate it in a powerful way. And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Well, they have been, and you're absolutely right. I don't know where you're hearing that because it's not being reported by a lot of the mainstream corporate media, of course, but many of those NATO members, European members, they hate America. They hate Donald Trump. I mean, remember, these are European leaders that J.D. Vance went over there and lectured in Germany saying you're arresting people for silently praying before an abortion clinic. You're arresting people for putting out very benign, common sense tweets or posts on Facebook. You guys aren't for liberty and freedom. And now, of course, that shows their hatred toward America and our values. And so, yes, they are provoking war with Russia in order to get us involved, which I think, again, is about bringing down America and weakening America. What are your thoughts, Leo?
Well, she's absolutely right. This goes all the way back to, I want to say, pre-Obama years when George W. Bush was the first president to mention that Ukraine would be a good candidate for NATO, and basically saying that we need to invite Ukraine into NATO gradually over a period of years. And ever since then, since that second Bush administration, the Western powers have been doing that, exactly that. They've been encouraging Ukraine. They've been building up Ukraine's military. They've been meddling in Ukraine's politics.
Yep.
They even overthrew a duly elected government in Ukraine with the assistance of the CIA in 2014 and installed a Western puppet. So, of course, they knew this was going to agitate and aggravate Vladimir Putin in Russia, who said all along that he had a red line when it came to the expansion of NATO. We've doubled the size of NATO since it was initially formed after World War II. But there was one country, Brandon, that Putin said would never be allowed in NATO, and the West couldn't even respect that.
Yeah, James, line one. Go quick, James. We'll get you in. Go ahead, James. Hi, James. Yep, go. We'll get you in.
Yes, I just wanted to point out, you were talking about the drugs that were causing bizarre behaviors. The conditions for which those drugs are prescribed are side effects of the psychotropic drugs they give for the mental disorders that they're screening everybody for.
Yeah, there's so many side effects of these psychotropics. And some of the guys I interview say these aren't the side effects, these are the effects. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. Thanks, Leo. Take care. And Leo is back with me here on WROS out of Jacksonville and Worldview Tube, of course. Leo, let's see, what else do we have in the news real quick before we let you go? Here is Tim Burchett of my home state of Tennessee. Guess what? They just found billions of more fraud. Here we go.
Hey, everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving oversight subcommittee. More again on efficiency in government and why the fraud is occurring. Had one member say that there's virtually no fraud. Then they came back and said, well, it comes out to 7 or 8%, almost 8% of money going out to these agencies is fraudulent. So it's a huge, to me, and it's billions. There's I think they figured 151 billion, isn't that right? 151 billion dollars. And to me, I don't care what percentage that is, that's a heck of a lot of money, especially the people in Tennessee. Anyway, what became evident to me was that they're not following the protocol that's recommended. Why wouldn't a thief follow protocol? Well, you can't recommend it. It's got to be mandatory that the framework's in place. So that
151 billion the oversight committee is finding. I mean, I think when all is said and done, we're going to find that everything that we're taxed for is squandered away. Everything the federal government takes in from the American taxpayer is squandered away. There's no need for federal taxes. Zero.
Yeah, I think it's run basically like the mafia, Brandon. We've got hush money. We've got slush funds for various foreign activity. You got crazy things being funded by USAID, which some of it can't even be repeated in polite company.
Right.
And so Americans are going to, they're getting an earful of it and an eyeful of it, and there's got to be some recompense at some point.
Well, that's absolutely right. All right, so before I let you go, Leo, tell us about the latest articles you're writing over at leoholman.com or leoholman.substack.com, Leo.
Yeah, I just posted one this morning on the situation with Russia and Ukraine becoming more tenuous by the day, with threats going back and forth, missile attacks back and forth. And, add on top of that now the breaking news that you announced earlier in your show, Brannon, about Ukraine now deciding under Zelensky that they want to sit down at the peace table and negotiate an end to the war. That now puts the ball in Russia's court. But I believe, Brannon, that Russia wants to finish the job and deliver some kind of knockout blow to Ukraine before they're willing to sit down at the table.
Wow. What are you hearing, Logan? What are you hearing in there? Canada caves to Donald Trump, and Ontario announces they've dropped their
$1 million,
20%. Look at this, by the way. Here we go.
That's a lot of money.
Look at this. Here's Donald Trump
talking about billions
at the White House getting a Tesla. There's Elon with little X.
Given to people with nothing. They have
That's
nothing
a live.
Going.
That's a live footage right
there. They open up a subchapter S corporation, and they put $2 billion into it from nowhere. And we've caught a lot of them. I wish we could catch all of them, but we've caught a lot of them. And he's been largely responsible. So we have to celebrate him. And it's not that he's conservative. I don't even know if he's conservative. I will tell you this. I've been doing this I've known him for a pretty long time. He endorsed me. I didn't know him that well when he endorsed me. But in the time I've known him, he has never asked me for a favor. He didn't ask me for this. I said, Elon, I don't like what's happening to you. And Tesla's a great company. I don't like what's happening. It's, from our standpoint, American cars, American made. He employs thousands of people. He's got, at the same time, he has the most modern plants in the world. I said, I don't like what's happened to you. I'm going to do it. I didn't even know he was going to come. He's never asked me for anything. He endorsed me, and he never asked me. I didn't even know he was going to endorse me. The guy has never asked me. He's not saying, in fact, I could go a step further. I ended the electric mandate. Okay, I ended the electric mandate, and I figured, when's this guy calling to raise hell with me? And he never called. I mean, he never called me. If I were him, I would have called.
So on that,
because he's probably even better than I am.
Mr. President, is Elon Musk rubbing off on you? Is electric then the way to go?
It's not that this isn't for electric or gas, because people have their choices. Yeah. I'm just saying that I know people that have these cars. I know one man, we see him all the time. Yeah. He has 5 of them. Yeah. He thinks it's and he was a big guy for Ferrari.
All right, so Trump has a friend that's 5 of them. Trump's big thing is mandating them. He doesn't want to see it mandated. People can have the option, the choice, but interesting. Closing comment, Leo?
Yeah, I thought the most interesting comment there was, I don't even know if he's conservative.
And I stopped the ban on EV, so he should be calling me. I'm hurting his business. It's an interesting relationship. One of the reporters asked if Elon was rubbing off on him. So this is very interesting to watch. Leo Hohmann, leohohmann.com, leohohmann.substack.com. Thank you, Leo. Leo Hohmann with Worldview Tube. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
All right, well, good afternoon.